好，这边右边第二排的第一位这位男士。
好，谢谢发言人。总台 CGTN 记者提问：中美举行的第17次国防部工作会晤上呢，中方强调美方应该充分认清海空安全问题的根源，严格约束一线部队。但是美方呢称将继续在国际法允许的范围内飞行和航行。请问发言人对此有何评论？
During the recent 17th Defense Policy Coordination talks between China and the United States, the Chinese side emphasized that the U.S. side should fully recognize the root cause of air and maritime security issues and rein in its troops on the ground strictly, while the U.S. side claimed that it will continue to fly and sail where international law allows. Do you have any comment?
中美海空军事安全问题的根源在于美军舰机跑到中国家门口滋事挑衅，在中国周边海空域进行长时间、大范围、高频度的抵近活动。中国军队依法依规进行处置，有关行动正当合理、专业克制。美方应停止滥用国际法，停止一切危险挑衅行径，严格约束一线
Taiwan is an inalienable and sacred part of China's territory. The Taiwan question is at the core of China's core interests. We will seek the prospect for peaceful reunification with the greatest sincerity and utmost efforts. However, if the Taiwan independent separatist forces make provocations and even cross the red line, we will have to take decisive measures to defend China's sovereignty and territorial integrity. This is a firm will of 1.4 billion Chinese people, as well as a sacred mission of the People's Liberation Army.
好，请大家继续提问。这边第一位。
谢谢凤凰卫视记者提问。美国国防部近期是发布了首份的国防工业战略，提出同印太国家合作，要建立强大的国防工业基础和生产能力，为该地区未来潜在的冲突做好准备。美国助理国防部长还称，中国颠覆现有的国际秩序的威胁是越来越大，美国迫切需要巩固国防工业的基础。请问发言人有怎样的一个回应？另外我们也注意到第二个问题，也注意到是在昨天1月24号，美国的一艘驱逐舰是再次通过了台湾海峡，请问国防部怎样回应？谢谢。
Phoenix TV. The U.S. Department of Defense recently released its first national defense industrial strategy, which calls to build strong defense industrial base and productivity together with Indo-Pacific nations to prepare for potential conflict in the region. U.S. Assistant Secretary of Defense for Industrial Base Policy noted China's increasing threat to upend existing international order and underscored the urgent need to shore up the defense industrial base as U.S. adversaries build up their military power to levels not seen since World War II. Do you have any comment? My second question is that yesterday on January 24th, a U.S. Navy destroyer sailed through the Taiwan Strait. Do you have any comment?
先回答你的第一个问题，关于这个美国的报告。美国的这份报告故意拿中国说事儿，炒作并不存在的中国威胁，对此我们坚决反对。事实一再证明，中国军事力量的发展始终是世界和平力量的发展，这一点国际社会是有公认的。美方的污蔑指责完全无效。同时，我们要指出，中方坚决反对美方在亚太地区搞小圈子，鼓动阵营对抗。
On the first one, this document you just mentioned named China and hyped up the non-existent China threat. We are firmly opposed to that. Fact has proven time and again that the growth of the Chinese military contributes to the growth of the force for peace in the world. This is recognized by the international community. The accusations and smears by the U.S. side are not true. At the same time, I have to say China firmly opposes U.S. acts to invigorate small group alliances and promote bloc confrontation in the Asia-Pacific.
关于你的第二个问题，昨天呢，我的同事东部战区的新闻发言人施毅大校已经就此发表了谈话。
On your second question, yesterday my colleague Senior Colonel Shi Yi from the Eastern, a spokesperson for the Eastern Theater Command, has already made a statement.
我想强调的是，无论是以台制华也好，还是以美谋独也罢，都将以失败而告终。
I want to emphasize one point. Whether they want to use Taiwan to contain China or whether those forces want to rely on U.S. support to seek independence, that will not work.
好，请大家继续提问。请中间吧，第三排中间那位女士。
谢谢发言人。解放军新闻传播中心军事报道提问：最近空军红鹰飞行表演队参加了倭人民军建军75周年的庆祝活动，并进行了飞行表演，请发言人进一步介绍有关的情况。谢谢。
CCTV Channel 7. Recently, we noticed that the POA Air Force Red Falcon aerobatic teams participated in the ceremony celebrating the 75th anniversary of the founding of the Lao People's Army and made air performance. Can you give us more details?
感谢你的这个问题啊。我想呢，视频胜过语言，请大家先看一下大屏幕。
Thanks for your question. I think videos speak louder than words. Please watch the screen first.
期待我们红缨镇的名片越来越响亮。
在视频的基础上啊，我再说两句。应老挝国防部邀请，1月17日至18日，空军红鹰飞行表演队教八表演机参加老挝人民军建军75周年庆祝活动。
In addition to this video, I'd like to add a few comments. At the invitation of Laos Ministry of National Defense, POA Air Force Red Falcon aerobatic team sent JR-8 trainer jets to participate in the activities celebrating the 75th anniversary of the founding of the Lao People's Army from January 17th to 18th.
这是中国空军飞行表演队首次赴老挝飞行表演，也是空军红鹰飞行表演队首次出国飞行表演，展示了8机、7机、6机、5机的编队表演，4机、3机双机特定动作表演和单机特技表演，并调整了拉烟配色，采用象征中国老挝国旗颜色的红色、黄色、蓝色、白色，首次增加象征和平与友谊的绿色，传递中国空军珍爱和平、珍视友谊、自信开放的风采。
There was the first time for the Chinese Air Force aerobatic team to perform in Laos, and the first time for the Red Falcon to perform abroad. During the show, the jets performed in 8-ship, 7-ship, 6-ship, and 5-ship formations, and specific maneuvers in 4-ship, 3-ship, 2-ship, and single-jet aerobatics. The contrail colors were also adjusted with red, yellow, blue, and white, representing the colors of Chinese and Lao national flags, and a newly added green color symbolizing peace and friendship. They represent a confident and open POA Air Force who values peace and friendship.
继母蓝天，友谊长存。中国空军以飞行表演的独特方式，向老挝人民军致以节日的祝贺，生动体现了中老两军的传统友谊和团结合作。
The stunning dance in the sky is for a great friendship. With the air performance, the POA Air Force extended its best wishes to the Lao People's Army in a special way. This demonstrates traditional friendship, solidarity, and cooperation between the Chinese and Lao militaries.
请大家继续提问，请第一排这位男士。
Thank you. A question from Bloomberg. Former Defense Minister Li Shangfu was removed from his post after just 7 months on the job, and that was followed by a chain of personnel purges in the military, including the removal of 2 top leaders from China's rocket force. Can you help me understand what are the reasons behind such personnel changes, and what do they tell us about the current state of China's military? Thank you.
彭博社，前中国国防部长李尚福上任不到7月就被免职。此后呢，中国军队进行了一系列人员的解职，包括2位前火箭军的高官。您能否向我们介绍相关人员人事变动的背后的原因，同时向我们介绍当前中国军队处于何种状态？
关于你问的这个问题呢，此前我们已经多次表明了原则的立场。需要强调的是，解放军捍卫国家主权、安全、发展利益的能力始终在线，意志坚定不移。
On the question you just mentioned, we have made clear our positions on that many times. I want to emphasize one point. The capabilities of the PLA in defending national sovereignty, security, and development interests is unquestionable, and our will is rock solid.
好，请继续提问。请中间第5排这位男士。
谢谢发言人。澎湃新闻记者提问：据媒体报道，全球火力网公布了最新军力排名，中国排名第3，排名前2位的是美国和俄罗斯。对此，国防部有何评论？谢谢。
The paper, the Global Firepower's military strength rankings has recently assigned the U.S. military as the most powerful military globally, with Russia and China follow as second and third most powerful military. Do you have any comment?
对于研究机构发布的这种评估报告，我们一向是不做评论的。作为原则，我认为评判一支军队，既要看它的能力，也要看它奉行的国防政策和军事战略。国虽大，好战必亡；天下虽安，忘战必危。
We usually do not comment on reports issued by research institutes. In principle, I would like to say, when we evaluate a military, we should not only focus on its capabilities, but also the defense policy and the military strategy it follows. As we say, no matter how big the nation is, if it likes fighting wars, it will inevitably decline. And though the nation may be safe, if you forget the danger and the risks, and it's also very risky for the nation to have decline.
请继续提问。第1排这位女士。
谢谢发言人，深圳卫视执新闻提问。我的第一个问题是，据报道，菲律宾武装部队总参谋长今日称呢，非计划开发南海岛礁，并购买更多船只和雷达。那么有分析认为，菲方还有意在南海建设前哨基地，那中国军方是否允许？第二个问题是，今年初中美讨论了今年两军交往计划，发言人是否可以透露双方是否有达成哪些共识或者交流安排？双方商定今年初将举行海上军事安全磋商机制会议，中方对此有何重点关切？谢谢。
Shenzhen Television, 2 questions. First, according to media reports, Chief of Staff for the Philippine Armed Forces said that the Philippines is planning to develop South China Sea Islands and acquire more ships and radars. Some analysts say the Philippine side is intending to build outposts in the South China Sea. Will the Chinese military allow that to happen? Second, we know that Chinese and U.S. militaries discussed the Myanmar engagement plan earlier this year. Can you tell us what the consensus is and what the detailed plan are for this year. And we know that the two sides will have the maritime military consultative agreement meetings later this year. So what is the Chinese side concerned about?
先回答你的第一个问题，买不买船啊是菲方自己的事儿，但是任何侵害中方主权安全、破坏地区和平稳定的事，中方都绝不允许。
On your first question, it's the Philippine side's own business whether they will purchase more ships or not. But I want to say they should not undermine China's sovereignty and security and should not undermine regional peace and stability.
中国对南沙群岛及其附近海域拥有无可争辩的主权，这有着充分的历史和法理依据。中方坚决反对菲方在非法侵占的中国南沙岛礁上开展任何形式的建设活动。
China has indisputable sovereignty over Nansha Qundao and the adjacent waters, which is fully backed by historical and jurisprudential basis. China resolutely opposes the Philippine side conducting any form of construction on China's islands or reefs illegally occupied by them.
当前中菲关系面临困难，根源在于菲方背信弃义，勾结域外大国，不断在南海侵权挑衅，损害中方的正当合法权益。我们要求菲方尊重历史，认清现实，不要沿着错误的道路走下去。中方愿与菲方通过双边对话协商解决分歧，但如果菲方一意孤行，中方将予以坚决反制。
There are indeed some difficulties in the current China-Philippine relationship. The root cause is that the Philippine side has, in collusion with outside powers, broken its promise and kept violating China's sovereignty and making provocations in the South China Sea. These efforts undermine China's legitimate and lawful rights and interests. We urge the Philippine side to respect history, recognize the reality, and do not go further down the wrong path. China is willing to work together with the Philippines to resolve differences through bilateral dialogues and consultation. However, if the Philippine side insists on taking its own course, we will surely take firm countermeasures.
回答你的第二个问题，中美两国元首就金山会晤就恢复两军沟通交流达成重要共识，在双方的共同努力下，两军在平等和尊重的基础上，稳步恢复对话与磋商。
On your second question, Chinese and U.S. heads of state agreed during their meeting in San Francisco to restore military-to-military communications. With concerted efforts from the two sides, the two militaries have steadily resumed dialogues on the basis of equality and respect.
目前啊，中美两军正就海上军事安全磋商机制会议等交往项目保持沟通协调，我们将适时发布消息。那么你刚才还问到的对海空军事安全的问题的立场，我在回答第一个问题的时候已经讲过了。那么在此我想强调的是，解决这个问题既要看到现象，又要透过现象看到本质。谢谢。
Currently, the two sides are discussing and coordinating the next Maritime Military Consultative Agreement meeting, and we will release information in due course. You also mentioned what concerns we have on air and maritime security issues. I've already mentioned our positions in early responses. I want to emphasize one point, which we should not only see the phenomenon, but also see the essence of the problem.
好吧，请大家继续提问。请这边第一排的这位女士。
谢谢发言人。东南卫视记者提问： 台湾防务部门近期发布公告称，解放军在台湾岛周边进行了海空联合战备警巡。那请问发言人，此次军事行动的目的是什么？
Southeast Television, Taiwan's Defense Department issued a notice which claimed that the POA recently conducted joint maritime and air combat readiness patrols around Taiwan. So, what is the purpose of this military operation?
近日，中国人解放军东部战区为台岛周边海空域组织例行性海空兵力联合战备警巡，进一步提升部队实战化训练水平，增强捍卫国家主权和领土完整的打仗能力。
The POA Eastern Theater Command conducted routine joint readiness patrols by air and maritime forces around Taiwan Island to further improve realistic training and strengthen combat capabilities in defending national sovereignty and territorial integrity.
中国解放军持续练兵备战，将继续常态组织有关军事行动。
The POA will continue to promote training and combat readiness and organize relevant military operations on a regular basis.
好，请继续提问。请这边第二排的中间这位男士。
谢谢发言人。中国日报记者提问：据报道呢，近日日本、俄罗斯和美国等太平洋沿岸的国家的海军官员参加了在南京举行的这个西太海军论坛的工作小组会，所以也为4月在青岛举行的西太海军论坛年会奠定了基础。所以想请问发言人能否进一步介绍一下有关的情况呢？谢谢。
China Daily. According to reports, naval officers from Japan, Russia, the United States, and other Pacific countries attended a working meeting of the Western Pacific Naval Symposium, or WPNS, in Nanjing to prepare for the biennial meeting to be held in Qingdao in April. Can you give us more details?
谢谢你的提问。1月16日至18日，中国海军在南京 承办西太平洋海军论坛2024年工作小组会，会议采取线下和线上相结合的方式展开。论坛23个成员国和7个观察员国，约70名代表参会。此次会议就论坛的章程修订、海上意外相遇规则使用情况、成立无人系统议题研究工作组，并由中方 担任协调国等10项议题，进行了友好、坦诚、建设性的研讨交流，形成一系列初步成果，并将提交论坛年会审议表决。
The POA Navy hosted the working meeting of the Western Pacific Naval Symposium in Nanjing from January 16th to 18th. The meeting, with both in-person and online participation, was attended by about 70 delegates from 23 WPNS member states and 7 observer states. The delegates had friendly, candid, and constructive discussions on 10 subjects, including the revision of the WPNS business charter, the use of the Code for Unplanned Encounters at Sea, or CUES, and the establishment of a working group on unmanned system studies with the Chinese side as the coordinator. A number of preliminary deliverables were agreed and will be submitted to the 19th biennial meeting for deliberation and vote.
今年4月，中方将在青岛举办第19届西太平洋海军论坛年会，同时恰逢人民海军成立75周年，海军还将举行系列活动。
China will host the 19th WPNS biennial meeting in Qingdao in April. Since the timing coincides with the 75th anniversary of the founding of the People's Navy, the POA Navy will also host a number of other activities.
好，请大家继续提问。中间第2排这位男士。
谢谢发言人。中新社记者提问：据报道，印度外长称，中方于2020年违反共识，在实控线附近集结了大量军力，引发加勒万河谷的冲突。他已向中方表明，如果不解决边界问题，那印中关系将难以正常发展。请问发言人对此有何评论？那中印两军何时将举行新一轮的军长级会谈？谢谢。
China News Service. According to media reports, India's External Affairs Minister Jaishankar said that China violated bilateral consensus in 2020 and assembled large amounts of military forces along the line of actual control, which triggered the conflict in the Galvan Valley. And he has made it clear to the Chinese side that unless a solution is found at the border, India-China relations cannot move on normally. Do you have any comment on that? And when will the two militaries have the next round of Corps Commander level meeting?
加勒万河谷位于中印边界西段实控线中方一侧，相关事件完全是由于印方违背共识、单方面挑衅造成的，责任完全在印方。3年多来，双方通过军事和外交渠道进行沟通协调，举行20轮军长级会谈，推动两军在加勒万河谷、班公湖、温泉、加尔南达坂等4个对峙点脱离接触，为边境缓局降温发挥积极作用。
The Galvan Valley lies on the Chinese side of the western sector along the line of actual control. The relevant incident happened only because the Indian side violated bilateral consensus and made unilateral provocations. Therefore, the responsibility lies entirely with the Indian side. Over the past 3 years, China and India have maintained communications and coordination through military and diplomatic channels. Up till now, the two militaries have had 20 rounds of Corps Commander level meetings and agreed to disengage at 4 points, namely the Galvan Valley, the Bangkok Lake, Hot Springs, and Jianan Daban, contributing to de-escalation of tensions along the border.
边界问题是历史遗留问题，不是中印关系的全部。印方坚持将边境事态与双边关系挂钩处理，是不明智的，也是不合适的，不符合双方的共同利益。我们希望印方与中方相向而行，增进战略互信，妥处分歧问题，共同维护边境地区的和平与安宁。关于新一轮军长级会谈，我们将适时发布信息。
The border dispute is a legacy issue between China and India, but it does not represent the whole picture of bilateral relations. Therefore, it is unwise and inappropriate for the Indian side to link the border issue with the overall relations. This approach is against the shared interests of the two countries. We hope the Indian side can work with the Chinese side to the same goal, enhance strategic mutual trust, properly handle differences, and safeguard peace and tranquility in the border areas. As for the next Corps Commander level meeting, we will release information in due course.
好，请大家继续提问。请右侧第4排，靠右的那位女士。
谢发言人，中评社记者提问：据报道，台军与美国在台协会完成签约，将自今年至2027年由美国为台湾提供飞弹系统技术支援服务，总金额约7.7亿新台币，约2400万美元。此外，台军拟从美国采购 T-11型降落伞用于特种部队使用。请问发言人对此有何评论？谢谢。
China Review News Agency. According to media reports, Taiwan's military has signed a contract with the U.S. Association in Taiwan worth 770 million Taiwan dollars, or 24 million US dollars. And under the contract, the U.S. will provide technological support on missile systems to Taiwan from this year to 2027. In addition, Taiwan's military plans to purchase T-11 parachutes for its special forces. What's your comment?
台湾问题纯属中国内政， 不容任何外来干涉。民进党当局为了一己私利，挥霍台湾老百姓的血汗钱去购买美国装备，完全是饮鸩止渴，只会将台湾推向兵凶战危的险境。
The Taiwan question is an internal affair of China and brooks no foreign interference. The DPP authorities are squandering Taiwan people's hard-earned money on purchasing U.S. weapons for their own self-interests. This is nothing but drinking a poison for thirsty, and will only push Taiwan closer to the brink of war.
台独剧毒，死路一条。几件美制武器换回来台湾的安全，为捍卫国家主权和领土完整，中国人民解放军一向是敢于出手，敢打必胜。
Taiwan independence is a deadly poison and a dead end. A few pieces of U.S. weapons cannot buy Taiwan's security. When it comes to defending China's national sovereignty and territorial integrity, the PLA will always be there to fight and win.
请继续提问。请第一排这位男士。
您好，台湾联合报记者提问：就是近月以来，台湾国防部陆续侦获来自大陆的空飘气球接近或飞越台湾上空。那在周一的时候有创下24小时内6枚的新高，今天也有通报3枚。那在去年底的发布会上，发言人曾就此事回应说，是民进党炒作所谓的大陆介选是他们惯用的选举套路。那不过就因为持续有空飘气球的出现，台湾民众也很关注，所以想请问发言人能否进一步说明这些空飘气球它是由哪些单位释放，它的目的为何？谢谢。
Taiwan United Press. The Taiwan's Defense Department said that the China's mainland are sending balloons over Taiwan very frequently. On Monday alone, they detected 6 balloons, and today there are 3 balloons over Taiwan. And the China's mainland said that the DPP authorities always hyped up China's interference in Taiwan's elections. And however, with this large number of balloons, people in Taiwan are also concerned. So can you tell us what units are sending these balloons and what is the purpose?
那个问题的前半部分，麻烦你先重复一下问题的前半部分，后面我知道了。
Can you please repeat the first half of your questions?
前面就是说，因为台湾这边陆续有侦获来自大陆的空飘气球接近或飞越台湾的上空。那周一的时候，据台湾国防部的通报是有创下24小时内6枚的新高。那今天他们也继续通报了有3枚。那在去年底的发布会上，就是您曾经就此事件回应说，是民进党当局炒作所谓大陆介选，是他们惯用选举套路。那因为现在也是选后了嘛，然后因为持续还是继续有空飘气球的出现也蛮多的，所以台湾民众很关注。
明白，谢谢。不用。回答一下你这个问题啊。首先纠正一个说法啊，台湾是中国的一部分。不存在什么国防部的这种说法吧。
I want to first correct one mistake in your question. Taiwan is part of China, so there is no so-called Defense Department of Taiwan.
关于你说的这个气球的事情呢，请向这个主管的部门了解。那么我们认为啊，民进党当局的有关炒作是挑动两岸对立对抗的惯用伎俩，是毫无意义的，也是注定失败的。
As on your question about the balloons, I refer you to competent authorities for an answer. I want to say that the DPP authorities are used to hyping up these kind of issues to instigate confrontation across the strait. I think this approach is not meaningful and will not succeed.
请继续提问。 右侧吧，右侧第7排那位女士，第7排。
谢谢发言人。解放军报记者提问：据报道，受暴雪影响，新疆阿勒泰地区近期发生雪崩，道路受阻，部分群众受困。新疆军区某陆路航旅紧急派直升机飞赴现场救援，请发言人进一步介绍有关情况。谢谢。
POA Daily. According to media reports, there was an avalanche in Altai in Xinjiang due to the impact of snowstorms, and many roads were blocked, and many people were stranded there. We noticed that an Army Aviation Brigade from the Xinjiang Military Command sent helicopters to help with the rescue efforts. Please tell us more details.
前不久，新疆阿勒泰地区白哈巴、喀纳斯、禾木等地因持续降雪导致雪崩，道路通信中断，游客被困滞留。新疆军区第一时间派出官兵及2架直升机，克服恶劣天候和通信不畅的影响，赶赴灾区救援，紧急转运被困群众88名，运送食品、药物、发电机等救援物资14.3吨，投送23名电力、通信、医疗等专业人员进入灾区救援，受困群众得到妥善安置。
Recently, there were heavy snowfalls in Baihaba, Kanas, and Hermu in Altai in Xinjiang, which led to an avalanche that cut off roads and communication and stranded tourists. Despite bad weather and poor communication, the POA Xinjiang Military Command dispatched military personnel and 2 helicopters to the affected areas for rescue. They lifted 88 stranded people out of the region, delivered 14.3 tons of supplies including food, medicine, and power generators, and transported 23 professionals in electric power, communication, and medical care to the disaster-hit region. The stranded individuals have all been properly accommodated.
接下来就这个救援，请大家看一段视频。
I want to share a video with you on the rescue efforts.
关于救灾，我再补充一下：近日，新疆、云南等地接连发生地震、山体滑坡等自然灾害，解放军和武警部队官兵一律紧急出动，驰援灾区，全力投入抢险救援和善后处置等工作。目前，救援工作正在紧张有序进行中，任务部队官兵将持续奋战在救灾一线，以实际行动保护人民群众的生命财产安全。
I'll add a few comments on POA's efforts on disaster relief. Recently, several natural disasters, including earthquakes and landslides, happened in Xinjiang and Yunnan provinces. The POA and the People's Armed Police Force have been ordered to assist and participate in rescue and follow-up matters. Currently, the rescue efforts are ongoing orderly, and officers and enlists of the task forces will continue to fight on the front line to save people's lives and properties.
好，接下来请继续提问。 请第一排这位。
Thank you, Bloomberg again. In January, Captain Yin Hongxin of the PLA Navy said that the CNS Fujian was undergoing mooring tests. I'm wondering, can the ministry provide the latest on the ship's development? When will the vessel start sea trials? And when will it go into commission? So that's my first question. And also, I just want to ask a second question, if that's okay. When will the Defense Minister Dong Jun meet with U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin? If that is going to happen, can you give any details when such a meeting might take place? Thank you.
彭博社2个问题。1月份的时候，海军尹洪兴上校表示，中国人民解放军海军福建舰正在进行细泊实验。您可否向我们介绍最近的一些进展？福建舰将何时进行海试？何时入役？第二个问题，中国的新任国防部长董军上将将会何时与美国的国防部长奥斯汀会面？如果他们要会面的话，具体时间是什么时候？
先回答你的第一个问题。关于福建舰的有关信息呢，此前我们已经在记者会上做了发布。那么，如果有进一步的消息呢，我们也会及时的做进一步的发布。
On your first question on the PLA Navy's Navy ship Fujian, we have already released information on that in early press conferences. If we have new information, we will release them.
关于第二个问题，中方重视中美两军关系，对双方各个层级的沟通持的是开放态度，希望美方与中方相向而行，切实尊重中方的核心利益和重大关切，在平等和尊重的基础上，推动两军关系健康稳定发展。
On your second question, the Chinese side is open to communications with the U.S. military at different levels. And we hope that the U.S. side can work together with the Chinese side. And we hope the U.S. side can respect China's core interests and major concerns and promote a sound and stable mil-mil relationship on the basis of equality and respect.
好，请继续提问。请左边第5排这位女士。
谢谢发言人。三沙卫视记者提问：据外媒报道，在印度活动的中国科考船与解放军签署合作协议，在执行海洋科学考察任务外，还为解放军执行任务推动其海外势力的部署。此外，印军方官员称，正关注中国科考船在印度洋海域的动向，请问发言人对此有何评论？谢谢。
Sansha Television, according to foreign media reports, China's scientific research vessels operating in the Indian Ocean have signed cooperation agreements with the PLA, and they will conduct secret missions to help with the PLA's deployment overseas. And according to officials from India, they are following relevant moves of China's scientific research vessels. Do you have any comment?
据了解，中国科考船在印度洋和其他海域均开展正常的海洋科学研究活动，完全符合联合国海洋法公约的规定。相关的报道毫无根据，纯属猜测。
According to my information, China's scientific research vessels conduct routine marine research in the Indian Ocean and other waters. Their operations are in full compliance with the UNCLOS, or the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, and relevant reports are groundless and pure speculation.
好，请大家继续提问。请中间这排，第7排这位女士。
谢谢发言人。南方都市报恩视频记者提问：日前，一名博主分享的拍照攻略中包括翻越围栏、穿越军事重地等内容，引起网络热议。请问国防部对此有何评论？我的第二个问题是，据朝中社的报道，1月19号，朝鲜在其东部海岸附近海域测试了水下核武器系统。在这次测试之前，朝鲜宣布结束核结与统一政策，并且呼吁准备在战争爆发时占领韩国。那外界就有分析担忧，朝韩双方发生军事冲突的可能性会增大。请问国防部对此有何看法？谢谢。
Southern Metropolis Daily. Recently, a blogger shared his photo tips, which include crossing barriers into China's military areas. Do you have any comment on that? The second question is that according to Yonhap News Agency, on January 19th, the DPRK conducted an underwater nuclear weapons test around its east coast, near its east coast. And before this test, the DPRK announced that it will end the policy of reconciliation and unification and calls to occupy the Republic of Korea when a war breaks out. So some analysts worry that the possibility of a military conflict between the DPRK and the RK is increasing. So what's your take on that?
先回答你的第一个问题。分享攻略不能违法，国家安全绝非儿戏。保护军事设施安全，维护国家利益是所有组织和公民应尽的责任和义务。我们希望大家严格遵守军事设施保护的法律法规，共同筑牢国家安全基石。
On your first question, I think we cannot violate rules and laws when sharing photo tips or travel tips or recommendations, and national security is not a game. It is an obligation and responsibility of all Chinese citizens to protect military secrets and the security of military facilities. We expect all web users strictly abide by laws concerning the protection of military facilities and work together to build a strong national security.
关于你的第二个问题，近段时间半岛局势持续紧张，对立对抗不断加剧。作为半岛近邻，中方一贯主张维护半岛的和平稳定，通过对话协商解决半岛问题。当前形势下，我们希望有关各方保持冷静克制，不再采取加剧紧张局势的行为，避免局势进一步升级，为重启有意义的对话创造条件。
Recently, tensions are high on the Korean Peninsula with intensified confrontation. As a close neighbor, China advocates safeguarding peace and stability on the peninsula and resolving the issue through dialogues and consultations. We expect all relevant parties to remain calm and exercise restraint, and do not take any action that may heighten tensions so as to avoid further escalation and it creates a favorable condition for resuming meaningful dialogues.
请大家继续提问。请右侧第6排那位女士。
谢谢发言人。总台央广记者提问：据报道，以国防军调查显示，哈马斯在加沙地带使用大量中国制造的武器装备，包括突击步枪、榴弹发射器、步枪瞄准镜和子弹等。以方正调查相关武器装备从何种途径获取等问题。请问发言人有何评论？
According to surveys of the Israel Defense Force, Hamas used large amounts of Chinese-made weapons in the Gaza Strip, including assault rifles, grenade launcher, rifle sights, and bullets. And the IDF is investigating how Hamas acquired these weapons. Do you have any comment?
巴以冲突以来，中方向巴勒斯坦提供了食品、医疗等紧急援助，但从未向冲突地区提供任何武器装备。需要强调的是， 中方在军品出口方面一向采取慎重负责的态度，严格遵循军品出口3原则，即有助于接受国的正当自卫能力，不损害有关地区和世界的和平、安全与稳定，不干涉接受国内政。
After the outbreak of the latest Palestine-Israel conflict, the Chinese side provided Palestine with emergency assistance, including food and medical supplies. We do not provide any weapon or equipment to the conflict zone. I want to emphasize that China takes a prudent and responsible attitude in exporting military products and strictly abide by the 3 principles in military products export, namely, the export should be conducive to the legitimate self-defense capability of recipient country, not undermine peace, security and stability of relevant regions in the world, and not interfere in the internal affairs of recipient country.
好，请大家继续提问。请第一排这位男士。
谢谢凤凰卫视2次提问有多个问题。5号的时候，韩美日3国是举行了首次的3边印太对话。会后的联合声明当中是多次点名或者不点名的谈到了中国，在南海问题上称3方强烈重申对国际法的坚定承诺，要坚持航行和飞越自由，反对印太水域的任何地方以武力或者胁迫手段改变现状的任何单方面企图，还重申了台湾海峡两岸的和平与稳定对于国际社会的安全和繁荣是不可或缺的。请问国防部有怎样的一个回应？另外，我们注意到北约从本周开始，它是进行名为“坚定捍卫者2024”的军演，将持续4个多月。北约成员国有9万多名的兵力参加，是冷战之后规模最大的军事演习。有分析就认为，北约已经从危机应对转变成为作战联盟。请问国防部对北约的大规模军演有怎样的一个评论？另外还有一个问题是关于中菲在南海的摩擦不断。美国驻菲律宾的大使日前在与菲律宾军方的人士会晤之后是表示，美国将恢复与菲律宾在南海的共同巡逻。菲律宾武装部队的司令也是表示，为了更好的执行以规则为基础的国际秩序，联合巡逻是必要的。请问中方有怎样的回应？谢谢。
Phoenix Television, 3 questions. First is on January 5th, the ROK, Japan, and the United States had the first trilateral Indo-Pacific dialogue. And after the dialogue, in the joint statement, China was mentioned multiple times. And they reaffirmed their commitment to international law and commitment to safeguarding freedom of navigation and overflight in the South China Sea, and said that they are against any unilateral change of status quo of waters in the Indo-Pacific. And they also re-emphasized that the peace and stability across the Taiwan Strait is of great significance to world peace. And second question is on NATO. NATO will have its largest military exercise since the end of the Cold War soon, and the Staunch Defender exercise will last for 4 months and will involve over 90,000 personnel. NATO says, many analysts say NATO is moving from crisis response to an operation alliance. Do you have any comment? The last one is about friction between China and the Philippines. U.S. ambassador to the Philippines said recently after his meeting with Philippines military leaders that they will restore joint patrols with the Philippine military. And the commander of the Philippines Armed Forces also say that joint patrols are necessary to defend rule-based international order. What's your comment?
这问题不少，先回答第一个啊。中方注意到美日韩举行有关对话，并发表有关文件，对其中的涉华不当内容表示强烈的不满。中方坚决反对有关国家拼凑排他性的小圈子，粗暴干涉中国内政，攻击抹黑中国，煽动对抗对立。
On On your first question, we have noticed the trilateral dialogue and the statement issued after the dialogue. I want to say that the Chinese side is strongly dissatisfied with inappropriate contents in the joint statement, and the Chinese side is opposed to building exclusive small groups interfering in other countries' internal affairs. And we are opposed to their act to attack China and instigate confrontation.
在南海问题上，中方坚定捍卫国家领土主权和海洋权益，同时致力于同有关当事国通过对话协商妥善解决分歧。个别域外国家在南海炫耀武力、煽动对抗，不利于南海的和平稳定。
On the South China Sea issue, China will firmly safeguard our territorial sovereignty and maritime rights and interests. At the same time, we are committed to properly resolving disputes with countries directly involved through dialogues and consultations. And we are against for outside powers to flex muscles and instigate confrontation in this region, and that will only undermine peace and stability of the South China Sea.
台湾是中国的台湾，台湾问题纯属中国内政，不容任何外干涉。
As for the Taiwan question, Taiwan is China's Taiwan, and the Taiwan question is an internal affair of China and brooks no foreign interference.
接下来回答你的关于北约的问题。
As for your question on NATO,
我们对北约近期举行的相关的演习表示高度的关注。
We are highly concerned by the exercise that will be held by NATO.
同时呢，我们也注意到北约秘书长最近一些涉华的不当表态。
We also noticed that NATO Secretary General made some inappropriate comments on China recently.
北约作为一个区域性的军事组织，自成立以来就四处发动战争，近年来更是不断的逼近亚太，借根本不存在的所谓中国威胁大搞阵营对抗，威胁地区安全。应该说，北约就是一部行走的战争机器，走到哪里就把动乱带到哪里。
As a regional military organization, NATO has launched and fought many wars around the world since its establishment. In recent years, NATO is inching closer to the Asia-Pacific and using the non-existent China threat as an excuse to advance bloc confrontation, which poses a threat to regional security. I think it's fair to say NATO is like a working war machine. Wherever it goes, there will be instability.
关于你的第三个问题，我们认为菲方同有关国家发展同盟关系，不得损害中方在南海的合法权益。
On your third question, I think for the Philippines to develop its ally relations with other countries, they should not undermine legitimate rights and interests of the Chinese side in the South China Sea.
同时，我们坚决反对美方插手搅局南海问题，怂恿支持菲方侵权滋事，加剧海上的紧张局势。对于涉海争议，中方坚持通过谈判、协商和平解决，同时坚定维护自身的领土主权和海洋权益。
At the same time, we are opposed to U.S. interference and intervention in the South China Sea issue, and U.S. moves to instigate the Philippines to make provocations and heighten tensions in the region. on resolving regional disputes. China is committed to peacefully resolving these disputes with countries in the region through dialogues and negotiations. And we will continue to firmly safeguard China's territorial sovereignty and maritime rights and interests.
好，请大家继续提问。右侧第8排中间那位女士。
谢谢发言人。环球时报记者提问，我有3个问题。第一个问题就是大家也刚才提到了，中美两国元首旧金山会晤后呢，两军在多个层级领域开展了交流，请发言人进一步介绍一下2024年度中美两军的交往计划。第二个问题是您刚才也介绍了第19届西太平洋海军论坛年会将于今年4月份在青岛举行。那10年前，中国海军也曾办了第14届西太海军论坛年会。当时美国海军领导出席，那今年中美两国的海军领导会不会在青岛举行会晤？第3个问题是，东部战区昨天深夜发布了这个美国的费恩号驱逐舰过航台湾海峡并公开炒作的新闻进行了表态。我们注意到最近一段时间，美国与台湾地区的互动并没有消减，对此发言人请做出评论，谢谢。
Global Times, 3 questions. First, this question has been asked before. We also noticed that Chinese and U.S. militaries had communications at various levels and in different areas after the meeting between the two heads of state in San Francisco. So can you tell us more details about the 2024 Meal engagement plan between China and the United States? Second, just now you said that China will host the 19th WPNS biennial meeting in April in Qingdao. We know that 10 years ago, China also hosted the 14th biennial meeting, and at that time, U.S. naval leader visited China. So, this year, Chinese and U.S. Navy leaders meet in Qingdao. And third one is that the Eastern Theater Command issued a statement on U.S. Navy ship USS destroyer Fane's transit through the Taiwan Strait late last night. We noticed that the interactions between the United States and Taiwan has not decreased. So do you have any comment?
感谢你的提问啊。关于第一个中美两军交往的有关问题呢，刚才呢我已经介绍了有关的情况，特别是介绍了 FMCA， 也就是中美海空军事安全磋商机制会议的有关情况，这里呢我就不再赘述了。
On your first question, I've already introduced the engagement between the two militaries before, in particular on the next Maritime Military Consultative Agreement meeting, so I will not go into more details.
那么需要强调的是，中美两军开展沟通交流，首先应当树立对彼此正确的战略判断，同时必须建立在平等和尊重的基础上。今年适逢中美建交45周年，我们希望美方切实尊重中方的核心利益，客观理性地看待中国和中国军队的发展，与中方一道把两国元首的重要共识落到实处，共同推进两军关系健康、稳定、可持续发展。
I want to emphasize that China-U.S. meal communications should be based on equality and respect, and the two sides should have a correct strategic calculation of each other. This year marks the 45th anniversary of China-U.S. diplomatic ties. We hope the U.S. side can truly respect China's core interests and take a rational view of the growth of China and the Chinese military. The two militaries should work together to follow through the consensus of the two heads of state and promote a sound, stable, and sustained meal relationship.
关于你的第二个问题，美国是西太平洋海军论坛的成员国。根据论坛章程的要求，中方已经向所有成员国和观察员国发出了参会邀请。我们期待与各国深化交流合作，为服务构建海洋命运共同体做出积极贡献。
On your second question, the United States is a member state of the WPNS. According to the requirement of the Business Charter of the WPNS, Chinese side has sent invitations to all member states and observer states. And we expect to work together with all of them to strengthen cooperation and to make a bigger contribution to building a maritime community of shared future.
关于你的第3个问题，东部战区呢已经就此发生了。在台湾问题上，我们的政策一贯明确，概括起来就是3个永远。台湾永远不是一个国家，台独永远不可能成事，外部势力分裂中国的图谋永远不会得逞。
On your third question, the Eastern Theater Command has already made a statement. Our position concerning the Taiwan question is consistent and clear. I think, in general, we can say there are 3 points. First, Taiwan will never be a country. Second, Taiwan independence will never succeed. Third, the attempts by foreign powers to split China will never work.
好，请继续提问。请中间这排第6排吧，中间这位，中间第6排。
谢谢发言人。总台国防军事频道记者提问。据报道，日本政府消息人士放风称，日本和澳大利亚正在探讨加强合作。考虑到中国的动向，双方将扩大联合训练以及在澳开展日本远程导弹发射试验。请问发言人有何评论？谢谢。
CCTV Channel 7. There are sources from Japan that say Japan is considering strengthening cooperation with Australia, and given China's moves, the 2 sides are considering expand joint exercises and conduct Japan's long-range missile launch tests in Australia. What's your comment on that?
我们一贯主张，有关国家间的防务合作不应损害第3方利益，不应危害地区的和平与安全。日方近年来违背和平宪法的精神，突破专守防卫的原则，大力发展对外进攻性武器，同时散布虚假叙事和挑衅言论，借不存在的中国威胁，不断拉帮结派，搞小圈子。中方对此坚决反对。
China upholds that defense cooperation between relevant countries should not target any third party or harm regional peace and security. In recent years, Japan has taken moves that violate its own pacifist constitution and exclusively defense-oriented policy. It has vigorously developed offensive weapons, made and spread false narratives and provocative remarks, and built up small group alliances under the pretext of the alleged China threat. The Chinese side is firmly opposed to these acts.
好，请大家继续提问。请中间第8排那位男士吧。
谢谢发言人。总台国防记者提问。据报道，包括将官在内的数十名日本陆上自卫队人员前不久集体参拜靖国神社，请问发言人对此有何评论？谢谢。
According to media reports, dozens of officers from Japan's self-defense force, including flag and general officers, paid a visit to the Asukuni Shrine recently. Do you have any comment on that?
靖国神社是日本军国主义发动对外侵略战争的精神工具和象征，供奉有14个对那场侵略战争负有严重罪责的甲级战犯。日本自卫队官员有关行径公然亵渎历史正义，严重伤害受害国民众感情，反映出对侵略历史的极度错误认知。中方对此强烈不满和坚决反对。我们要求日方切实正视、深刻反省侵略历史，以实际行动同军国主义彻底切割， 避免进一步失信于亚洲邻国和国际社会。
The Yasukuni Shrine is a spiritual tool and symbol of Japanese militarists' war of aggression. It honors 14 convicted Class A war criminals with grave responsibilities for war crimes committed during that war of aggression. The visit made by officials from the Japan Self-Defense Force is a blatant disrespect to justice and gravely hurt the feelings of people in the victim countries. It shows that the Japanese side has a very wrong attitude towards its history of aggression. The Chinese side is strongly dissatisfied and firmly opposed to this visit. We demand the Japanese side to truly face up to and reflect on its history of aggression and make a clean break with militarism to prevent losing trust of its Asian neighbors and the international community.
好，请大家继续提问。请这边，这位。
Bloomberg. Excuse me. Recently, the U.S., with some of its allies, have been striking Houthi targets in Yemen. This is part of an effort to stop the group from attacking global shipping. My question is, what kind of military action, if any, would China consider taking in the region? Would China participate in any such US-led efforts, and if not, why not? And also, are there any limitations on China, for example, in its use of naval forces that are based in Djibouti, for example? Thank you.
彭博社，美国近期正和其盟友打击在也门的胡塞武装的目标。现在。同时呢，这是为了阻止胡塞组织袭击在红海的国际商船。如果中方是否会参与相关的军事行动？如果参加的话，中方会采取何种的军事行动？同时呢，中方是否会参加美方领导的相关的护航的行动？如果不参加，原因何在？同时。中方在使用吉布提的海军驻吉布提的海军兵力方面有没有任何的限制？
我看今天彭博社的记者还是比较活跃的。我对你的问题做一个回答。红海水域是重要的国际货物和能源贸易通道，维护该地区安全稳定，符合国际社会的共同利益。
I see many questions from Bloomberg today. On your first question, the Red Sea is important international passage for global trade, and it is a shared interest of the international community to safeguard stability in this region.
中方一贯主张维护国际水道的安全，反对袭扰民用船只，同时。致力于标本兼治，通过对话协商和政治途径解决地区热点问题。
China upholds safeguarding the security of international passages, and we are against attacking civilian ships in the region. At the same time, we hope we need to take an approach to address both symptoms and root causes of regional hotspot issues, and to resolve these issues through dialogues and consultation and political solutions.
必须强调的是，红海局势紧张是加沙冲突外溢的突出表现。当务之急是尽快平息加沙战火，防止冲突进一步扩大甚至失控。
I want to emphasize that the current crisis in the Red Sea is actually an overflow of the conflict in the Gaza Strip. Therefore, I think the priority for us is to realize a ceasefire in the Gaza Strip and prevent it from further escalation.
我们希望有关各方都能为维护红海地区 安全稳定发挥建设性和负责任作用。
We hope all parties relevant can play a constructive and responsible role in safeguarding security and stability in the Red Sea.
我们将密切关注形势的发展。
And we will continue to closely following the development of the situation in this area.
关于你提到的有关中国人民解放军驻吉布提保障基地的问题，我想呢，保障基地4个字已经回答了你的问题。
As for your question concerning the PLA supporting base in Djibouti, I think from its name you can see the answer to this question. The name of the base is a supporting base.
好吧，请继续提问。来，请这边第2排这位男士。
Hi, from the Associated Press. Recently, diplomats from China and the Philippines met in Shanghai and agreed to reduce tensions in the South China Sea. But, based on recent statements you hear from both sides, it seems like it will be very difficult and challenging to do. And I'm wondering if you see any hope for any reduction in confrontations, for example, this year compared to last year.
美联社近期中国和菲律宾的外交官在上海举行了会晤，旨在降低南海的紧张局势。但是呢，从双方近期发表的声明来看，还有很多的困难和挑战。您是否认为今年有降低冲突的希望？与去年相比的话。
感谢你的提问。确实呢，中非双方呢近期在上海呢就有关问题进行了磋商。
Thanks for your question. Indeed, recently China and the Philippines had a consultation on relevant issues in Shanghai.
但是呢，必须坦率的说，解决南海目前面临的问题呢，不可能一蹴而就。
Honestly speaking, I think it is impossible for us to resolve all problems in the South China Sea in a single night.
中方一直致力于通过对话以磋商和平解决涉海问题，但是呢，也同时坚定地维护自身的安全利益和自身的海洋权益。
China is committed to resolving maritime disputes in a peaceful way through dialogues and consultations. At the same time, we will firmly safeguard our security interests and maritime rights.
在缓和南海紧张局势这个问题上，有关大国，也就是美国，停止插手、停止挑衅是非常必要的。
On easing tensions in the South China Sea, I think it is also necessary for some big power, which is the United States, to stop interfering and stop making provocations.
好，请继续提问。中间第5排这位男士。
谢谢发言人，澎湃新闻。我还有一个问题，也是关于日本的。日前，日本与美国签署协议，采购400枚战斧巡航导弹，其中包括200枚具备反舰能力的导弹，射程超过1600千米，主要针对航母等大型战舰。有分析认为，日本此举主要针对中国航母。对此，国防部有何评论？谢谢。
Paper, I have another question. According to media reports, Japan recently signed agreements with the United States to purchase 400 long-range Tomahawk missiles from the United States, and 200 of them will have anti-ship capabilities with a range over 1,600 kilometers. Many say that these missiles are mainly targeted at large battleships, including aircraft carriers, and some analysts say Japan's move is targeted at China's aircraft carriers. Do you have any response?
美国纵容支持日本扩军备，加剧军备竞赛的势头。 冲击地区和平安全，破坏全球战略稳定，损害以国际法为基础的国际秩序，中方对此坚决反对。
The United States has connived at Japan's move to enhance its arsenal. This kind of behavior have intensified the momentum of an arms race in the region, undermined peace and security in this region, and undermined global strategic stability. It also undermined international order based on international law. The Chinese side is firmly opposed to that.
同时，我们要求日方深刻反省历史，切实尊重亚洲邻国的安全关切，在军事安全领域谨言慎行。
At the same time, we also demand the Japanese side to truly reflect on history, respect security concerns of its Asian neighbors, and be discreet in its words and deeds in military security areas.
好，请继续提问。第3排这位女士。
发言人您好，中国军事网记者提问。据报道，北约秘书长在出席达沃斯经济论坛时称，北约进入亚洲并非问题所在，而是中国正在逼近北约。此外，日媒爆料称，北约与日本正在就加强情报合作商讨新的具体举措。请问发言人有何评论？谢谢。
News 7 television, according to media reports, NATO Secretary General recently said at the Davos World Economic Forum that this is not about NATO moving into Asia, but instead about the fact that China is coming close to us. And according to media reports from Japan, Japan is considering strengthening intelligence cooperation with NATO. Do you have any comment?
相关北约这个问题呢，刚才在回答凤凰的提问的时候呢，我已经做出了表态。那么我再强调一下，我们敦促北约停止编造谎言，停止祸乱亚太的危险行径，客观理性地看待中国和中国军队的发展，为世界和平多做些有益的事情，而不是相反。
On the comments made by NATO Secretary General, I already answered that earlier when answering a question from Phoenix TV. I want to emphasize one point. We urge NATO to stop making up lies and stop any dangerous move that may disrupt the Asia-Pacific. Take an objective and rational view of the growth of China and the Chinese military, and do more things that are conducive to world peace.
好，请继续提问。好，还是彭博。
Bloomberg, thank you for your patience taking my questions. I just want to go back to an earlier question I was asking about the former Defense Minister Li Shangfu and also the personnel purges in the military. In your response, you mentioned that you had stated your position quite clearly, but I'm not sure if you've actually given a reason for the personnel changes. Can you help me understand what the reason is? Thank you.
彭博士，谢谢您的耐心。我也回到我之前的一个问题，此前提到的关于前防长李尚福被解职以及其他相关军队高层被解职的问题。您刚刚呢已经非常清楚地介绍了中方的立场。我的问题是，就是这些人事变动背后的原因到底是什么？能否给我们介绍一下相关的原因？
你这个问题呢，刚才呢我已经做出了回答。我建议你呢持续关注我们的权威信息发布。谢谢。
I already made my position very clear earlier, and I suggest you following our authoritative information release.
好，请继续提问。如果没有问题的话呢，我再说两句啊。在结束之前呢，我还想介绍一批特殊的朋友，他们是来自哈尔滨工业大学的师生代表。欢迎你们啊，从名城尔滨啊来到首都北京，包括哈工大在内的广大高校， 在党的坚强领导下，打造了一大批国之重器，培育了一大批国之栋梁，为中国国防和科技发展做出了杰出贡献。作为军人，我见到你们格外的亲。感谢你们来规模国防部记者会，期待你们一如既往的筑牢理想信念，开拓国际视野，感受斗争风云，矢志精忠报国。
And before we conclude the press conference, I'd like to introduce some special friends to you. They are representatives from the Harbin Institute of Technology, or HIT. They have traveled from the hit city of Harbin to the capital city of Beijing. It's great to have you with us today. And with the strong leadership of the Communist Party of China, universities, including the HIT, have built pillar projects and cultivated cornerstone talent for the nation, and make a great contribution to China's defense and technological development. As someone in uniform, it's a special pleasure for me to welcome you. And I wish you all, through observing the MND press conference, have a firm conviction, a global perspective, and dedication to serving the nation.
再过不久，我们即将迎来农历龙年的新春佳节。在中华传统文化中龙代表着祥瑞、智慧和力量，也展示出一种拼搏进取的精神。中国龙既能腾飞于天，又能翱如于水，寄托着中华民族奋斗圆梦的美好追求。我们千千万万的中华儿女还有一个共同的称谓，那就是龙的传人。在此，我谨代表国防部新闻发布团队，向各位记者朋友，向关心关爱中国军队的各界朋友和每一位龙的传人拜个早年，祝大家在新的一年里龙腾虎跃，美梦成真，祝我们伟大的祖国巨龙腾飞，再创辉煌。
The Spring Festival and the Year of Dragon will soon arrive. In traditional Chinese culture, dragon represents fortune, wisdom, and strength, as well as a fighting spirit and entrepreneurship. Chinese dragon can fly high in the sky and dive deep in the water. It carries people's aspirations for success through hard working. As a matter of fact, all Chinese people share a same name, the descendants of the dragon. Here, on behalf of the MND information team, I'd like to extend early festival greetings to all the journalists, friends, and every descendant of the dragon who care for our military. Happy Chinese New Year. Wish you all great success, and may your dreams come true. Wish our motherland soar like a dragon and make new achievements.
最后再插播一则广告刚才大家进门的时候呢，已经想必都拿到了这个邀请函。国防部新闻局将于1月29日在中国人民革命军事博物馆举办2024年度的国防部中外媒体新春招待会。那么在此呢，诚挚的邀请各位媒体朋友参加，我们也非常热切的期待和你们密切交流，共贺新春。
In the end, just an ad for the information office. Our office will have the new Spring Festival reception on January 29th in the Chinese People's Revolution Museum, and we look forward to seeing you at the reception and to celebrate Spring Festival together.
好，今天的记者会到此结束，谢谢大家。
That concludes the press conference. Thanks for coming.